Hi everybody, welcome back. Today we have a different location for this guy that just arrived to me, just delivered from the post, you see. Well, this is the huge, probably one of the biggest plane in 148 scale, I think the following step is just maybe to plan for something 132 about this boy. And this is the SR-71, the Blackbird, This was one of my favorite plane ever, made in the 50s by the same father and engineer making the F-104, the mighty starfighter so famous in Italy. This is the Blackbird, so made by Clarence Kelly Johnson, And the model is a brand new item made by Revell, I think at the end of 2022. And it's absolutely huge. You see just the dimension that you can just spot here. 70 centimeter for 35, 68.2, 35.3. So the machine is huge. I just opened the sealed box. The box is huge. Everything is giant. 2021. At the end of 2021. This is a long-awaited model, that have been announced by Revell a couple of years before, and everybody was waiting for this. Until today, we just had the tester model that have been reboxed also from Italeri, and it is not so ugly model. It was the unique possibility to build it up in 148 scale until now, and mostly it was a model that had, I think, something like 40 years old mold, and so all the details were belonging to that era, and the Niger tester was one of the best around making this type of kit. Instead, Revell, it is one of the best making this type of models, and I'm so happy to see this monster here. The line is, this was a plane that had been grounded, I think, in 1988. It already achieved all the books that you can have about this, so the squadron signal, the aerofax. There is a lot of documentation about the plane. The plane was impressive, was one of the miracle machines that they made back in time. In the beginning, it was made also in the fighter version, there was the YF-12A, the thing was named the plane, and it was flying in the 50s and in the 60s, mostly, but then it was absolutely too expensive. I think they made 10 or 12 of this super interceptor plane, it was interesting to see something like this, that was a real fighting plane, so maybe if we look further in the mold, we can also plan for something about this stuff, but we will see. So opening the box, I just cut the sealing dots from Revell. You have several of these. It is 6 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 in the longer side and 1 in the shorter side. And immediately inside, I already opened it before to check if everything was okay, and they immediately provide this upper part of the plastic, so you're not don't have any longer the floating parts around. This was a great idea because tester indeed started to make the mold for box dimensions. They uses the box coming from the truck, so you can have the fuselage that was divided into different pieces. We have all the fuselage that was a kind of insert to place in the rear part of the fuselage, and that was ugly at the time because I had a couple of them in 48 from tester, and I remember that all the plastic were nearly constantly wrinkled. All the parts were wrinkled. When you are dealing with so big parts, it's important that they are really well done and straight. Under here, as you can see, they place these ears to fix the plastics. I already taped. I don't know if it is a good condition or not, probably not. The transparent part, the transparents are really well done with the satin part for the stuff that you have to color in the same black of the plane. It's very sensitive part, so it's better. They already provided this tape that in my box was already floating around over the instruction sheet, so I wanted to place it in another place, Then you move this. It's very difficult to manage just with 2 hands, I need an assistance for this stuff here. Under it there is some parts, not too many of course. This is already the box giving you the display. If you are willing to make this model over a display, that became huge because then you will have 70 centimeter of missile running around your room, and I really don't know neither if I will ever build this stuff, but I just took because the mold was something expressive, and I think is something that is the status of the art made by Revell. One of the points is the flawless panel lines. They are completely well done. There are some very cute details, not too heavy to be honest, and this is also probably coming from the fact that usually the Revell Germany is working with recycled plastic, so every time you have also the detail that in particular on the curved area can be faded out, and they are not so sharp as they probably are in the original mold by the company. So if they use a better plastic, every time will be much better condition. But you know, in modern times everything have to be ecological and we have to be the savior of the world, so we will be the one using the shitty plastic, while in Asia they still use the perfect plastic, much more glossy, much more better to work with, and mostly not recycled, so the polymer didn't lost his original characteristic that is quite important on this big stuff, you know. Inside you have a very well, nicely detailed part. Something that was really interesting for me was already the type of boxing that Revell did in the beginning. So you see, wrapping the plastic, you have this kind of coverage, saving the final fin of the nozzle that goes inside the engine. So you see, that should be a very, very sharp edge that is very, very easy to damage. Instead, Revell provided this type of protection. I don't know if this is a part of the motor itself that have been placed here in this position just for boxing, but it is in common in the same part of the same other box. You see? The same other part of the same identical situation. So this is providing you a fully detailed engine for both the sides, you know. I don't know if this, yeah, there is also the possibility just to show them outside, because of course when you finish the model, all this part will be closed, so not so much will be visible, you know. Usually the maintenance part of the SR-71 were opening from the under part of the plane, so it is not so possible to see. Even if you make a finished model, don't take a look at, but this is my kitchen, you know, my table, you know, you have Italian bruschetta, olive oil, some special food coming from the south of Italy, stuff that I love. So it was the only facility where I can make my video about this monster, you know. And going on, we have this other part. That's why I was saying before that maybe there is the possibility to make a modification, you know, because this was the final part of the fuselage, you know, that in the previous version of the fighters and so on, they were a little bit different. They had the proper radome with the radar. I think it was the basics of the radar used in the F-14, what they started in the YF-12 and in the A-12 plane, you know, of the 60s. So I think just modifying this part can be already possible, maybe to plan for some different versions of it. You know, the YF-12 have a very, very nice livery that was silver and black, so it was not completely black, or white and black. So there is a lot of documentation about that plane, you know, just to have an idea. This is the nozzles, you know, they are not so well done. It is typical Revell, you know, so the detail is what you can expect from this film, you know, is not too bad, but of course this is a critical point in the real plane, so it is something that of course if you go for a serious build of this plane, have to be replaced with something finer, something nicer, something much more detailed than this one. And inside you can see the final stage of the afterburner inside the motor, you know. The cockpit is not so badly done. This is something that of course you can improve in details as much as you want. There is already platoons of photo etched part made from for the first edition of the tester plane, but I think they fit in the same way here, or even better go for a racing cockpit to super detail the part, you know. You don't see so much, even if the canopy is open. The shape of the SR-71 didn't give you a proper eye-catching point like in the F-16, like in the F-14, in the F-15 of the completely open canopy, so you don't see completely all the details inside the plane. It will also be interesting to spot some pilots. I think there is already a company making the pilots with the special suit they had for this plane, you know. They didn't look really like ordinary fighter pilot, they look like much more like spacemen, you know, with the special helmet from the space, you know, because this plane was amazing, you know. I read somewhere around that the operative altitude where it was used to fly it was 85,000 feet. It's nearly 20 kilometers, no more. It's 27 kilometers nearly from the ground, so we are talking about mostly about a starship, you know, and that is of course indeed the only altitude where this monster can fly at Mach 3.2, 3.1. It was the fastest plane ever, you know, this and the MiG-25, you know. The final part is of course this extra sprue that they had. I think this was not present in the very first edition of the box, is the display. So there is a little more extra, you know, and that's it. And as usual, I always recommend you guys to close the in the instruction sheet. Usually they used to place also the decal sheet. You know, my instruction was a little bit already wrinkled by that transparent part that I showed you in the beginning. You know, it was simply taped here, so it started to wrinkle a little the instruction colored sheet. That is absolutely well done. Take a proper look and make several dry fit when you go for the assembly of this model, because I already seen in other videos of other guys making the assembly of this model that there is several mistakes in the part number. So every time you go for gluing, simply make every time a test fit. I remember that was something absolutely wrong in the motor assembly, so you have to be extremely careful. This is not the first time that Revell makes a mess in the instruction sheet, so this is absolutely, despite the nice looking, is absolutely one of the leaking point of this model, you know. And last but not least, my ordinary tip is constantly to wrap. This is not made by them, this is something that I just made, you know. I have a bag of plastic bags. Again, don't look at my background, don't do it. Wine says there, you never know. And as I said, I always place this inside the plastic wrap, because maybe the box being so big, usually I don't keep them in my house, I place them in the garage and so on, so it's very risky for humidity and so on. So every time if you seal them in a plastic, it is just a covering, you know, with this proper anti-humidity paper that they place it over. The most important is that this paper is printed in Italy. This means that this is an extremely high quality decal sheet provided by them. There have been in the past other decal sheet provided by, I think it was a Superscale, Microscale, the same company, you know, making several versions of the SR-71, directed to the model made by Tester in the 70s, in the 80s, you know. So basically you can fit the same identical situation, but I think this decal sheet is absolutely well done and well spotted for the plane. Of course, they have the old-fashioned way to give you also the interior details and the interior cockpit that in this scale, I think today nobody ever uses any longer. That's it. The model is simply amazing. If you have the space to have this, look at that. I'm going 2 meters up to show you, between my red wine and the olive oil and all the Italian shit there. It's huge and is absolutely a must if you love this type of monster in the bigger scale ever. It's absolutely a giant model. Simply well done. I love it really so much, and wonder if maybe I can build it in the future, maybe under some customer request. That will be the best, you know, so I will enjoy the building up, maybe buying another just to see how it is, but today I don't have commissions for this one, so I just will keep it and enjoy to see the beauty of this mold and the nice model that they did. Really amazing stuff. Thanks guys for watching, see you in the next one.